Before we crack open tonight's cursed can of content, I just want to say a big thank you to all our subscribers, and an extra sinister shout out to the loyal members of the Sinister Elite. You legends help keep the darkness alive. If you're enjoying the stories and want to take it a step further, hit that like button, make sure you're subscribed, and consider joining the Sinister Elite by clicking that join button below. Members get access to creepy custom emojis and exclusive Sinister Elite badges that level up the longer you survive with us. It's like loyalty, but spookier. All right, lights off, headphones in, and let's summon something we'll all regret. The job post sounded fake. Daytime cleaner wanted. Flexible hours, high pay, discretion required. I figured rich people spilled caviar and didn't like Yelp reviews. I sent a one-line email and got an instant reply with a gate code and a warning. Arrive after sunrise. Leave before dusk. Cute. Cosplay vampires. The Danbury Estate rose out of fog like a ship caught in a spider web. Tall windows, stone angels with chipped faces. A door that looked heavy enough to flatten me if it sneezed, my beat-up Civic, idled like it wanted to run. I grabbed my tote. Rags, bleach, rubber gloves, and the cheapest mop on earth. The front door opened by itself. Slow, theatrical. A cold draft rolled over me and smelled like old roses and pennies. "Hello?" I called. My voice came back thinner. "Kyle, the cleaner." No answer. Just the tick of a grandfather clock in the hall. Tick, tick, tick. Like a tooth tapping a glass. I stepped inside and tried not to stare. Velvet curtains. A chandelier with candles instead of bulbs. Paintings of people with the same pale face and the same black eyes, repeated down the corridor like a breeding chart. I stood on an imported rug that probably cost more than my car and tried not to track in Kansas with my boots. Then I saw it. Paper taped to the grandfather clock rules for day staff. I read them out loud because that's what my brain does when it's scared. Never clean after 5:45 p.m. Do not touch the coffins. Avoid uncovered mirrors. They show who's next. Never enter the wine cellar. That isn't wine. If you find a bite mark that wasn't there yesterday, quit before it heals. At the bottom, someone had scribbled a new line in shaky pencil. If the mop moves by itself, let it. I stared at that one for a long time. "Okay," I whispered. Either the last cleaner was hilarious, or they were a poet in trouble. The house creaked. Agreeing with me, I started in the foyer. Dust like gray snow on the banister. I snapped open my cheap mop and dunked it in a brass bucket near the door. The water was already there. It was warm. That shouldn't have been possible. I didn't ask. First pull across the marble felt normal. Second pull hit something tacky I couldn't see. Third pull pulled back. I stopped, looked down. The mop head clung to the floor like Velcro. I tugged harder. The handle hummed in my hands. A pinprick of crimson welled up between the tiles and spidered into a hair-thin vein that ran toward the east hall. I told myself it was rust or wine. Definitely not blood. The vein kept spreading. "Not my problem," I said. "I bill hourly." I pushed the mop forward and it helped me. The head swiveled on its own, steering into the vein, soaking it in with a faint sizzle, like a skillet kissed by rain. I let go by reflex. The handle didn't fall. It balanced upright, bristles pressed to the marble, drinking. Something scraped down the hall. Slow. Dragging like a sack of wet laundry being pulled by someone too tired to be alive. "Hello," I called again. My mouth tasted like coins. If you're a homeowner, say homeowner. If you're a ghost, say leaseholder. No answer. The scraping stopped. Then came a whisper through the vent above me. "You missed a spot." I froze. The voice was close. Right behind my neck close, I turned around with the speed of a brave tortoise. No one. Just the bucket, the clock, and a portrait of a woman staring at me like she forgave me for nothing. I looked down. The mop was gone. Hey! It hadn't vanished. It had rolled itself like a lazy broom toward the east hall. The brass ferrule on the handle caught the light and flashed an engraving I hadn't noticed Moptimus. "Okay, mystery person. You better not be haunted." I followed. The east hall smelled different, humid, underground. The house stopped pretending to be charming and got honest. The boards groaned underfoot. The baseboards had scratches, long and parallel, like fingernails trying to write a word and getting bored. The mop stood at a door bound in iron, the door to the wine cellar. Rule 4: never enter the wine cellar. That isn't wine. The mop's head tilted at me like a dog waiting to be let out. "Nope," I said. "I'm not even a little drunk. We're not doing this." I grabbed the handle to drag it back. Warmth shot up my arm. Not heat. Warmth like skin. Like a pulse under wood and metal. The brass band felt alive. I flinched and dropped it. The handle didn't clatter. It bowed a brief, formal dip. Then the iron door unlatched with a soft, wet pop. Cold air poured out, the kind that remembers basements, mildew, and secrets. My phone buzzed in my pocket, a bank alert I didn't recognize. Deposit received, $600, Danbury Trust. I should have left then. Let the money sit and ghost the gig. But rent is a romance that doesn't take no for an answer. I lifted the mop like a spear and stepped to the threshold. Down below, glass ticked against glass. A slow drip echoed, steady and satisfied. The smell was wrong. Not grape, not oak. It was a copper choir I didn't go down. I'm dumb, not suicidal. I leaned in far enough to see the first shelf. Bottles with hand-lettered labels. Names written in careful ink: Abigail, Rowan, Pastor Price. On the nearest bottle, the ink still looked wet. Kyle. The K bled a little. I slammed the door. The house sighed. Unhappy, I shoved the iron latch across. It refused to catch. I shoved again. It slid into place with a finality that felt like a bet I couldn't afford. New rule, I told the hallway. I don't do cellars. The mop shivered in my hand, then turned my wrist gently toward the foyer. Like it had decided we were done here, I let it guide me. Pride is lighter than a paycheck. Back in the light, I checked the wall clock. 2:12 p.m. I had time to hit the parlor, the dining room, and the hallway of mirrors. Except, they were all draped in velvet good. I hate mirrors. They always look like they're waiting. I dusted a candelabrum and nicked my wrist on a barbed little ornament. The cut opened. Bright and clean, I cupped my hand, ready to watch a drop fall. It didn't. The bead of red tightened, quivered, then reversed direction like a tape rewinding. It drew itself back into my skin and vanished, leaving a pale crescent like a half-healed bite. I stared, throat tight. "Not funny," I told the air. Somewhere deep in the house, the grandfather clock ticked faster. Tick, tick, tick. The sound rattled the chandelier. I checked the paper rules again. Fifth line stared me down. If you find a bite mark that wasn't there yesterday, quit before it heals. I touched the pale crescent. It tingled. I told myself I'd scratched it on a box at home. On something stupid. On anything. In the silence, a low voice slid along the floorboards, soft and intimate as a secret. 5:45. I checked the clock. 3:11 p.m. Plenty of time, I said, to convince the part of me that had already started packing. I turned. The mop stood upright in the middle of the foyer, bristles gray, handle straight, head tilted just so it looked patient. "You move by yourself?" I asked. Blink once for yes. The chandelier flickered. The mop didn't blink. It did something weirder. It edged itself half an inch to the left and pressed its head to a dark seam in the marble I hadn't noticed. The seam flushed red. The mop drank. The red vanished. I swallowed. "Okay, buddy. You do you." I worked. The house watched. The light shifted in the windows like clouds slowed down for me somewhere. A laugh tried not to sound like a cry. I ignored it with Olympic skill. When my phone hit 5:35, I was already at the door. I stuffed rags into my tote and reached for the knob. It didn't turn. The wood was cold enough to burn. The lock clicked by itself. In the reflection of the brass plate, my face hovered pale and stretched. Like I'd aged in the last hour. Behind my reflected shoulder, something moved. Not someone. My shadow lifted its head and smiled. "Nope," I whispered. "Nope. Nope. Nope." The grandfather clock boomed once, twice. The sound rolled through the halls like a stone thrown into black water. I grabbed the mop like a staff. "Okay," I said, voice thin but alive. "If you're haunted, be haunted on my team." The mop handle warmed under my palm. The brass ferrule pulsed once, like a heartbeat. From the east hall, the cellar latch slid open. 5:45. The voice sighed. Closer now. "Time to clean the stains you can't see." I took one step toward the sound, then another behind me. Every velvet cloth in the mirror hall fell in a soft red rain. "Okay," I said to nobody. "Round one." The air inside that mansion thickened after 5:45. It didn't just get darker, it felt heavier, like someone turned gravity up a notch. Dust floated slower. My heartbeat echoed. I told myself it was my imagination, but imagination doesn't make shadows breathe. I tried the door again. Still locked. Then the grandfather clock let out a final clang, and the latch behind me clicked open all by itself. The cellar door. Of course. A draft rolled through the hall, smelling like iron, mold, and something sweetly rotten Moptimus Prime. The mop I still refused to admit was alive, stood pointed toward it, handle upright, bristles twitching like it could smell blood. "I'm not going down there," I said. "That's how every dumb white guy dies in every horror movie ever." The mop tilted, unimpressed. I grabbed it anyway. The steps groaned as I went down, candlelight flickering across the stone walls. The temperature dropped with every stair. The last step dipped into a small puddle of dark red that reflected the flame wrong, like it bent around something invisible. The cellar stretched out in long rows of glass bottles, each lit faintly from within. The wine looked too thick, and it pulsed, faintly alive. Every bottle had a label written in careful ink. Abigail, Rowan, Father Price. I found the one with my name again. Kyle, sitting front and center on a wooden crate, half full, condensation running down the side like sweat. The mop made a quiet metallic hum, the same sound a sword would make if it was disappointed in its owner. "Yeah," I whispered. "I don't like it either." I backed away, but one of the other bottles clinked as if something inside it moved. Then another. The sound spread down the line like dominoes. Clink, 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 clink. Then silence. The candle flame went out. I stood in the dark, breathing too fast, holding that mop like a weapon. Then, beneath the stairs, a whisper, wet, bubbling. "Cleaner." I froze. Nope, not answering. Another whisper. "You spilled me." Every bottle around me started trembling. Glass cracked, corks began to lift, and then, pop. The first cork flew across the room, releasing a cloud of red mist that hissed when it touched the air. The mist gathered into a shape, human, but not whole. A face made of vapor, jaw unhinged, eyes black pits that blinked sideways. "Back up, back up, back up!" I stammered, stumbling toward the stairs. The mop moved before I did. It jerked out of my hands, planted itself in the floor and started spinning. The bristles whipped around, scattering drops of glowing red that burned holes in the stone. The mist shrieked and folded in on itself like a dying flame. When the light cleared, the cellar was still again. I picked the mop up slowly. "Okay," I said. "You're definitely haunted. But we're still on the same side, right?" The handle warmed in my grip. I decided that meant yes. As I climbed the stairs, I noticed something wet on my arm. I rolled up my sleeve. A faint bite mark. Not deep. Just 2 neat impressions they hadn't been there an hour ago. "Oh, come on," I groaned. Rule number 5. I tried wiping the blood off. The skin healed over instantly, smooth as glass. Not good. When I reached the main floor, the house had changed. The walls looked darker, like the wallpaper itself was bleeding through. The portrait's eyes followed me more aggressively, every candle burned lower than it should have. And the mirrors. God. The mirrors were uncovered now. Dozens of them stretching from floor to ceiling, reflecting me from every angle except not me. In the reflections, I wasn't holding a mop. I was holding a scythe. "Okay," I said, voice shaking. "Nope. I'm done. I'm done." I quit. I turned toward the front door, locked again. Behind me, glass cracked. My reflection leaned closer from inside the mirror, lips twitching up into a grin. Then it whispered, "You can't quit what's already started." I stumbled back and hit the grandfather clock. Its hands were spinning, fast as a blender. The paper rules were still taped to it, the ink now bleeding like fresh blood. A new line appeared at the bottom, writing itself letter by letter. 7. If your reflection smiles first, don't move. I didn't breathe. I didn't blink. The reflection did both. Then it stepped out. I dropped the mop, screamed, and swung my fist on instinct. My knuckles met air that felt solid, cold, and wrong. The reflection's hand shot forward, claws digging into my shoulder. My blood hit the marble and started smoking. Then Moptimus Prime snapped upright on its own. The brass handle glowed, runes burning up its side. It leapt from the ground, slammed into the reflection's chest, and flung it back into the mirror with a blinding flash. Glass exploded everywhere. When the light faded, the mirror was cracked in a spiderweb pattern. My reflection was gone. I stood there panting, chest heaving, trying not to vomit. The mop leaned against my leg, humming like it was proud. "Yeah," I gasped. "Good job, buddy." From deep in the cellar, something howled. A long, low, starving noise that rattled every window in the mansion. Then the whisper came again, dripping with hunger. 5:45 was yesterday. Cleaner. The clock hand stopped, both on midnight. The lights went out, only the mop still glowed. The mansion was a throat full of whispers. Every wall seemed to breathe. Every floorboard groaned like it remembered pain. The only light came from Moptimus Prime's handle, a soft, holy glow that pulsed like a heartbeat. I stood in the dark foyer, bleeding and shaking. "All right, buddy," I whispered, gripping the mop like a weapon. "You handle the floors. I'll handle the panic attack." Something laughed down the hall, a sound like a choir trapped in a blender. The air turned thick, syrupy. I stumbled forward, light bouncing off the broken mirror shards still twitching on the ground. Each shard still had my reflection, but none of them were doing what I was doing. One blinked when I didn't. Another tilted its head. One of them mouthed something I couldn't hear. Then, all at once, every reflection spoke together. Clean. It. Up. I swung the mop instinctively. A burst of red light erupted from the bristles, and every shard shattered into dust. "Okay," I breathed. "So we're fighting the furniture now." The mansion laughed again. The walls actually flexed outward like lungs. Candlelight flickered to life along the corridor ahead. It led straight to the Hall of Mirrors. I didn't want to go there. Naturally, I went there. The hall stretched too long for the space it should have fit in. Mirrors on both sides, framed in gold, floor polished black as oil. My footsteps echoed twice. Once from me, once from something else walking in rhythm. Moptimus Prime's glow flickered, uncertain. The mop hummed, almost afraid. "It's okay," I whispered, voice breaking. "We'll do this like every cleaning job. One nightmare at a time." Halfway down the hall, I froze. My reflection wasn't copying me anymore. It stood perfectly still. My head tilted left, his tilted right. I waved. It smiled. Then its eyes bled. Blood seeped from its sockets, dripping down the glass, running across the floor. The smell of copper filled the air. The next mirror over did the same. Then the next. Soon, every reflection was crying blood. "We told you not to look," they whispered. I stumbled back, but the mirrors began warping, bulging outward like the glass was becoming liquid. A pale hand pushed through one of them, slick, boneless, and wrong. It slapped the marble, leaving a streak of red that began to crawl. Moptimus Prime jerked itself free from my grip and slammed down on the crawling blood. Steam erupted where it struck, like holy acid. The mop began spinning, its handle twisting, bristles whirling faster than should be possible. Each strike sent out a shockwave of light, cracking the mirrors one by one. The reflections screamed. Some of them shouted my name. Some shouted, "Help me." I couldn't tell which ones were real anymore. A mirror on my left exploded, and something clawed out. Tall, thin, its face half mine and half something ancient. Its skin was pale like moonlight soaked in milk. It grabbed me by the throat and whispered in my ear with my own voice. "You're cleaning your own tomb, Kyle." I kicked it away, coughing, heart slamming against my ribs. "Then I'm the janitor of hell," I hissed. Moptimus Prime launched itself into the creature's chest like a spear. The bristles turned silver, the glow went blinding, and the monster disintegrated into ash that smelled like burned wine. I dropped to my knees. My blood dripped on the marble again. But this time, it didn't vanish. It moved. It slithered toward the mirrors like it was alive, drawn to something. The last intact mirror at the end of the hall shimmered like a pool of water. A figure stood inside it, tall, regal, cloaked in black. His eyes glowed faint gold, like a dying candle. "Lord Danbury," I breathed. The name left my mouth before my brain approved it. He smiled, revealing teeth like needles. "You've done well, cleaner. You've fed my house." "What do you mean, fed?" I shouted. Every drop of blood on the floor rose into the air and streamed toward the mirror, spiraling like a red tornado. The figure inside reached out with long, elegant fingers. I grabbed Moptimus Prime. The handle burned my palm. "Not today." The mop's glow flared brighter, so bright it painted the hall in white. The mirror screamed. Cracks spidered outward, glass bursting in waves. The figure inside shattered with it, and the storm of blood fell harmlessly to the floor, steaming like water on hot steel. Then silence. All the candles went out. My reflection returned. Just me, pale, wide-eyed, breathing. But the moment I turned away, I swear I saw it smirk. Behind me, the grandfather clock began to ring again. Slow, measured, dong, dong, dong. Midnight again. And this time, every coffin in the house opened. From the dark, a voice that sounded like velvet over knives whispered, "Thank you for cleaning, my child. Now we rise." The mansion shook, dust raining from the ceiling. The cellar door slammed open below. Dozens of footsteps echoed, all in perfect sync. I gripped Moptimus Prime like it was Excalibur dipped in bleach. "Guess we're clocking in for overtime." The mop hummed louder, ready for war. The mansion woke up like a beast coming out of anesthesia. Every chandelier swayed, every wall groaned, and the air filled with the smell of hot iron and roses long dead. My eardrums throbbed from the low hum rising under the floorboards. Not machinery. Heartbeats. One for every coffin. Moptimus Prime's handle vibrated in my hands like it could feel the pulse too. The silver along the shaft glowed brighter, engraving itself with fresh runes that looked like Latin or something much older. "Don't you dare die on me," I muttered. "You're the only one here with a better survival rate than me." Then the first coffin lid slid open. The sound wasn't wood on hinges. It was flesh tearing. A pale hand gripped the rim, veins black as tar. Another followed. Then a man sat up, dressed in a decaying tuxedo, mouth red like he'd just kissed a grenade. He turned his head toward me. Bones popped in his neck. His eyes opened. Yellow. "Cleaner," he croaked. "You kept it beautiful." More lids opened dozens. Some coffins creaked, others just ripped apart. The room filled with whispering, their words crawling across the walls in languages that hadn't been spoken since the dirt was new. I stepped back until my spine hit the wall. This wasn't in the job description. The nearest vampire smiled with gums full of fangs. It was written in the fine print of your blood. Then they moved fast. I swung Moptimus Prime out of reflex. The mop wasn't a mop anymore. The bristles turned to metal threads that shone like moonlight, slicing the first vampire clean in half. His body disintegrated into black smoke that reeked of sulfur. "Holy crap," I whispered. "You're Excalimop." The mop hummed in approval. The vampires hissed, circling. One crawled along the ceiling like a spider. Another sprinted on all fours, nails screeching against marble. Moptimus flared, light bursting from its core, and I moved without thinking, spinning, sweeping, cutting. Every time I struck, the floor filled with hissing steam, the air snapping like a live wire. One lunged for my throat. The mop handle extended mid-swing, stabbing through its chest. The bristles caught fire. The body turned to ash before it even screamed. I was sweating blood and adrenaline. "This is for minimum wage," I yelled, kicking another one backward. The mop spun in my grip like it was guiding me. It wasn't just killing, it was cleansing. Every strike scrubbed centuries of filth off that house, the marble whitening under each hit. But they kept coming. The air turned red, thicker, with every kill. They were dozens deep, all kinds, some still human-shaped, others twisted with bat-like wings or elongated jaws. One woman floated above the others, black hair writhing like smoke. Her voice slid through the noise like silk. "You've been chosen, cleaner. The house likes you." "Yeah? Tell it to send a raise." She grinned and all the candles went out at once. My glow from Moptimus was the only light left. A silver halo in a pit of red darkness. Then I felt it. A cold hand on my shoulder. I turned slowly. He was right there. Lord Danbury. Tall, skeletal, dressed in black so deep it ate light. His skin was the color of marble dust, and his eyes glowed like two dying suns. His fangs looked carved from ivory and sin. "Mr. Danbury," I breathed. "Love what you've done with the place." He smiled. "I remember every cleaner. None lasted past the third day." "Well, I brought my own mop." He looked at it, and for the first time he flinched. "That relic was forged from my first servant's spine," he hissed. "It belongs to me." "Oh, this old thing?" I tightened my grip. "Sorry. We're union now." Danbury blurred forward faster than thought. His hand closed around my throat, lifting me like I weighed nothing. My feet kicked in the air, and black spots crowded my vision. "I could make you immortal," he whispered. "Your blood is pure. Your fear is ripe. You've already begun changing." He leaned close. His breath smelled like old wine and graves. "One drop of my blood, and you'd serve forever." I rasped. "Sorry. Not big on commitment." Moptimus glowed white-hot. I jammed the handle forward, stabbing through Danbury's chest. The runes along the shaft exploded with light. Holy fire bursting out both ends, Danbury screamed, voice shaking the windows until glass shattered. His flesh cracked open, light seeping through like magma under skin. I hit him again, spinning the mop, sweeping a circle of fire around him. Every vampire in the room shrieked as the flames spread, bursting like dominoes of sunlight. The ceiling shook. The portraits melted. Danbury stumbled backward, clutching his chest. "You can't kill what death made." "Maybe not," I said, "but I can mop the damn floor with you." With that, I drove Moptimus through him again, straight through his heart. The bristles flared gold. Danbury's body shattered into a storm of ash and embers. The light was blinding. The mansion howled, then silence. The vampires were gone. The fire faded. Moptimus cooled, glowing softly, the air smelling faintly of rain and bleach. I fell to my knees, panting. My arm burned. The veins glowed faint red. The bite mark pulsed once, twice, then stopped. Outside, dawn was breaking. I laughed weakly. Guess that's how you deep clean evil. But as I looked up, the reflection in a nearby cracked mirror stared back. Only this time it didn't copy me. It smiled first. The sun crawled across the cracked glass windows like it was afraid to touch the place. Every beam of light bent, warped, as if the house was rejecting daylight itself. Smoke curled from the coffins, what was left of them, and the marble floors gleamed red. Not wet, not dry, just breathing. I leaned against the wall, gasping. My heart was racing, but it didn't sound right. It was slower, heavier. Every beat felt like someone knocking from inside my chest. Moptimus Prime leaned beside me, still humming faintly. Silver light dying down to a pulse. It looked tired, almost human. "Hey," I whispered. "You good?" The mop bristles twitched once. That was enough. I looked around. Every vampire was dust. Every shadow was gone. The mansion, for the first time, was silent. But silence in this place didn't mean safety. It meant something else was listening. I started toward the front door. I was done. I was quitting. I was going home, telling Craigslist to shove it, and maybe burning my phone just in case I grabbed the handle. It turned. Finally. But the moment I stepped outside, the light hit my arm and burned. I screamed, falling to my knees. The skin on my wrist sizzled like bacon, blistering, then healing instantly. My blood boiled, and a sharp, cold hunger rose in my gut. "No," I breathed. "No, no, no." My reflection in the brass door stared back. Its eyes glowed faint gold. Its fangs peaked when I swallowed. Inside the foyer, the grandfather clock started ticking again. Tick, tick, tick. Then the voice came, soft, deep, and ancient. The kind of voice that belonged in cathedrals and nightmares. "You did well, cleaner. You finished the job." I turned back. The house looked alive. Veins of light crawled along the walls, pulsing in rhythm with my heartbeat. The air shimmered, and from the swirl of ash where Danbury had fallen, something formed. Not a man this time. Not exactly. A shape of pure smoke and bone, stitched together by light and blood. It floated, face half human, half shadow. Lord Danbury was rebuilding himself. I grabbed Moptimus, bracing for round 2. "Didn't I already mop your ass into retirement?" The shape grinned, all teeth and hunger. "You didn't destroy me, boy. You inherited me." The bristles of Moptimus began to tremble. The light inside it turned red. "What the hell are you doing?" I asked. "It's not your mop," the voice hissed. "It's my weapon, my blood, my spine." The mop snapped upright, jerking out of my hands and floating toward him. Its metal gleamed, melting, reshaping into a spear of bone and silver. The glowing runes rearranged into a symbol that looked like an eye with fangs. Danbury's shape reached out, pulling it closer. Our legacy continues. Not today. I lunged forward and caught the handle mid-air. It burned my palms, searing through flesh, but I held on. Smoke curled around my arms, sinking into my veins. My vision blurred red. For a moment I saw what Danbury saw. Centuries of hunger, of kneeling servants of me. Then something inside the mop pulsed again. A memory, maybe. The faint whisper of every cleaner before me. Keep it clean. Light exploded. The runes turned white hot, burning Danbury's form to ash again. The explosion blasted through the foyer, tearing down curtains, blowing out the windows. When the smoke cleared, the house was empty again. Danbury was gone. But so was the mop's light. I fell to the floor, holding the charred handle. The bristles were black, smoking. The silver was dull. For the first time, Moptimus Prime was silent. "Hey," I whispered, shaking it. "Come on, buddy. Don't you quit on me now." Nothing. Just the sound of wind through broken glass. I staggered outside, clutching what was left of the mop. The sunlight still burned, but not enough to kill. The pain faded fast. Too fast. My reflection in a puddle didn't match my movements anymore. Its eyes were golden. I knew then what Danbury meant. The mansion didn't need a master. It needed a keeper. Someone to guard it, clean it, feed it. And I was already halfway there. By the time the sun fully rose, the house looked new again. Every window intact, every door sealed like nothing had happened. I stood on the porch, bleeding from the palms, staring at the brass plate beside the door. New words had etched themselves there overnight. Kyle Danbury, estate keeper. The name hit like a punch. I looked down at my arm, veins glowing faintly gold. The mop's bristles twitched once more, barely alive. Guess we're stuck with this gig, I muttered. The front door opened by itself, waiting. The mansion breathed. I stepped inside. From somewhere deep within the halls, a whisper answered me. "Welcome home, cleaner." The grandfather clock chimed once. The candles flared to life. And Moptimus Prime, loyal even in death, hummed one last time. A low, holy growl that sounded almost like laughter.